Welcome to the Other 99% podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Duck, a coffee-loving direct sales enthusiast who's obsessed with a good digital system. Come join me for a realistic look into the world of direct sales. We'll explore inspiring perspectives, learn about unique business tips, and celebrate success stories that often go untold. Because on the Other 99%, every seller matters. Hey everyone, it is Lisa, and welcome back to another episode of the Other 99%. I am super excited to have one of our direct sales legends here with us, Belinda Ellsworth. We were just chatting before I hit record about how I've been in direct sales for 18 years. And I remember Belinda from the very beginning of my direct sales journey. So this is super exciting to have her as a guest. And I'd love for you to jump in, Belinda, and introduce yourself to the listeners. I'm sure most people know who you are, but there might be those few who don't. Let them know whatever you'd like to share, like maybe when you started your journey, how you got into direct sales, and what you're doing now.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. Well, it's been a long little journey, and I started out. I was only 18, and I was pursuing the career of a professional musician. So I was playing in a couple of bands, and I just really needed something to supplement the days that we weren't working, and to just have an additional income so I could pursue that without having to go get a full-time job. And so that is what I decided to do. I was introduced to it. Actually, I had been working in a doctor's office as just kind of as with a job while I was doing my music. Hated it so bad, waking up every morning at 7 a.m. I was like, this is for the birds. And so one of my patients actually said, hey, I just got started in this business and I need somebody to have a party for me. You seem fun and bubbly. Would you do it? And really, I didn't know her. I always say she did good on her, man, for just stepping out of her comfort zone. And I said, sure. And then I thought, well, this is an interesting way to make money. And I began at 18. And for probably a year and a half, I just did parties every single Monday and Tuesday because the band was playing the rest of the time. But I was able to quit the doctor's office, make more money than I was there, supplement that and save. It was amazing. And then, a few years would go by. The band kind of took off. We were traveling. Then I got married and I had my daughter. And then it was like, okay, life needs to change. Like, we're going to need to do something different. And I couldn't be a rock star anymore. It was like, okay, I'm going to have to put that on pause for a hot minute. But I was really good at this direct sales thing. So I'm going to go back. And I did. And then I completely went at it in a different mindset. So that's what I love about direct sales is it can meet you wherever you are, but at any moment in time, you can decide to make it whatever else you want it to be.
Absolutely.
And so when I decided at that time, okay, I'm going to go for it big, that was when I really, I would say I honed my sales skills. I was one of the top sellers in the company. I started recruiting some. I had a small team of about 30 people, and that was going along fine. I did that for about 8 years, and then 8 years in, the company was having a lot of changes to product line and some different things, and I decided to make a move. And when I did that, I also decided at that point, okay, I was a really good salesperson, top in the company. And you know what? Now I'm going to build. But you have to remember, I'm still only in my 20s, in my late 20s. And I just started building. And by the time I turned 30, that was my goal by my 30th birthday to be at the highest level within the company that they had. That's what I did. So had a very big team, did that for 8 more years. And then I was really encouraged by a lot of people. They're like, you're just a really good trainer. You make things so easy to understand, and you should be doing this for everybody in this space. And so 1995, I left and I started my own company. And I just started training, and I have spoken for literally hundreds of different companies and thousands of consultants, and really spent the rest of my life creating programs, courses, tools and resources that help people be as successful as they personally want to be. So meet them where they are. And it's been about 7 years ago now, 8 years ago, I started my podcast, Work From Your Happy Place, where I really started also training and working with other entrepreneurs outside of the direct selling space. And that's been an interesting journey as well. We're kind of like in the top 1% of podcast, and it's a lot of fun, and I get to meet really cool people, and it keeps me as excited about what I'm doing and inspired as the guests like I have on. I'm hoping that my guests inspire other people, but they inspire me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a really great win-win. I think podcasts are awesome. They do a lot for everybody. So that is my whole life story in a nutshell in like 4 minutes. How's that?
I love that. I love that. And I know you just mentioned about podcasts, and I absolutely love the feedback. I mean, my podcast is still very young, but I'm getting so much positive feedback about people walking away with inspiration from stories that we're sharing. And that's why I do this. That's why I started it. So again, thank you so much for joining us. But I just want to circle back because I know that you have your planner, your direct sales planner. And I know that a lot of people, especially this time of year, are starting to think about,
Yes.
picking up that perfect planner, planning out their next year for success. So let's talk a little bit about that and maybe pick up on some goal setting, because I know your planner includes parts of that as well. So tell us a little bit about what your planner is and like sort of why you brought that to the direct sales market.
Sure, sure. Well, how it came to be is I had several different CEOs from different direct sales companies say to me, you've got all these programs, which I did. I had a ton of different training courses and programs, and they said, but you really should. There is no planner that really meets the needs of our salespeople. And if anybody's going to do one, it ought to be you. And you should do that. And I said, oh, that's so sweet of you to say. I mean, I had this over a couple of years. I had several people saying it. And I just thought, oh my gosh, that is so much work. Like,
Mm.
I don't want to do that. And so one year, somebody had asked me again, and it was like, how it's just always the right time or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, surely there has got to be a planner out there that would work for people. And so I'd rather see if there is one, and then I will recommend it. Like I could even partner
Right.
with that planner, and I could just be an endorser of it. And that would make me super happy too. Because I'm always looking to collaborate with people and be helpful. And, I thought, well, this could be a win-win for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
So I purchased 20 different planners, 20. And there really wasn't one that I thought hit the mark as to really help people on what to do. See, the hardest thing for direct sellers, people have said, what do you think the hardest thing for direct sellers is? And honestly, there's all kinds of different layers to it, but the most difficult thing is, how do you be self-employed?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows how, like, they go to work on, we'll call it a 9 to 5 or a day job, whatever you want to call it. And you go, and the people there, you have your assignment, you have your job description, you are told what to do, you are told what time to show up, you're told what time you can go to lunch. I mean, you pretty much are told what to do. And then suddenly you're on your own, and it's like, I don't know how to be self-disciplined. I don't know how to set my schedule. I don't know how to create a list of things to do to set effective goals. Like, I don't know how to do any of this.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of planners would have like a calendar, but a planner is more than a calendar, or it should be.
Mm-hmm.
It should be a guide, or it should direct you into how to show up and be the best version of you day after day after day. I really built my whole philosophy of my entire business around these 4 pillars of success. And that is focus, commitment, consistency, and organization. And so a lot of the programs I would create always made sure that those things were in there. And so I really wanted the planner to have that as well. And so I literally sat down, drew it out on paper, and designed that planner within about 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
The first version. And now we're on version 8. And each and every single year, we get feedback from our customers and they say, oh, I love this. I wish it had this. And I usually take that into consideration. And sometimes if I hear it from enough people or I can figure out a way to do it, we certainly will add that in. But the planner is focused around skill sets,
Okay.
which is time management, goal setting, scheduling, systems, networking, all of the things, that you should be doing on a daily basis. And that's really what it is centered around. Then we built out accessory items. So we call it the Everything You Need to Succeed bundle. And so we took a look at, okay, what are the other things necessary for success besides skill set? And of course, it's mindset. Mindset is almost equally as important as skill set. And then the third thing that's super important is a healthy, positive attitude, because your attitude is going to make or break you and how you decide to see your day every day. Every day we have a choice. Is the glass half full? Is the glass half empty?
So true.
And so which are you going to choose? And so I started doing a lot of research around that. We created it's called The Art of Self-Discovery, and it takes a deep dive into 12 interpersonal skills and really helps people learn to master some of those and get out of their own way and growing their self-confidence, overcoming stress, their relationship to money, just a lot of things that are really important to support the skill set.
Mm-hmm.
And then the piece for positive attitude, of course, is a gratitude journal. There's so much research that's been done on gratitude journals, but there really isn't a better resource of keeping a healthy, positive attitude. And there's research that shows that people that use a gratitude journal on a regular basis have a 40% greater chance of achieving their goals.
Mm-hmm.
So we built out this bundle. We've priced it really well. So it's like a $323 value for $129. And you get everything. And plus some all other fun extras. Those are the core pieces, but you get, notepads and bookmarks and, oh my gosh, stickers and trying to think what else is in there. There's so many.
I see like a pack of pens or something.
Yeah, markers. And this year we decided, because so many people kind of like, oh, I like having a written planner. I'm a firm believer in a written planner because there's studies that show that people that actually use a, write-in planner have about a 35% higher productivity rate. And to me, that's substantial. However, there's certain parts of the planner, maybe just your schedule, that you'd like to use in a digital format. And so this year, when you buy that bundle, we give you the digital format of the planner as well as the printed planner. So it's a good bundle and I'm super excited about it. I've always been a skill set trainer for the most part. And I would, one of the things that I always heard from leaders is, gosh, Belinda, you came and spoke to our group we're at this conference and I had like 2 ladies that left on fire and they both were just going to blow up their business. And what was interesting is, one left and actually did that, double promoted herself and whatever. And the other one actually did not change anything. And so I would get asked this question over and over and over, and they would say, why is that? And I didn't really have a solid answer because they both walked away with what? This is how you do it. I tell people why they need to do it. Here's how you do it. And here's some examples of how this plays out in real life. That's my philosophy as a trainer. And so I had done that. And I thought if they just did what I said, they would get the same result, right? Because I've done this with numerous people. And so as I started doing a deeper dive into that, it was, if you don't believe that you can, if you lack confidence, if you doubt yourself every day, if you have fear around certain things of those skill sets to do, you're never going to do the skill sets that I've taught you. And that honestly, because I'm such a driver of, I just have been I was just born that way. Like, okay, we're gonna do stuff. We're gonna make stuff happen.
Hmm.
And so it was hard for me to understand people that didn't.
Right.
But I did take a deep dive into that. And I think for the first time ever in my life, when COVID happened, I was faced with some of those same feelings and really was able to maybe relate to people in a different way than I ever had
Hmm.
before, and really have developed out some strong interpersonal um, tools for mindset as well as skill set. So
That's awesome. I just want to circle back for a minute because you mentioned something about writing down and being productive when you're writing things down. And I love that you're including a digital version this year because I am a totally digital girl. But I'm finding that since I've been adding so many different hats to my business, um, I'm looking for something where I need that written component as well as that digital. So something for like a weekly overview where you could just write it down and cross it off when it's done. I think that's so important to have in a planner. And I love that, you mentioned that your planner has both. So
Mhm.
yeah, that,
What's interesting is, the old days, there's so much research, and I'm talking about go back 40 years or whatever. But, and you might remember this from when you were in school, I don't know, but like it was repetitive writing would help you to remember. Like I used to write
mhm,
out all my speeches in the early days because for what it did for me more than anything else was it put it into my memory banks. If I you write out your homework, or one of the things for discipline that schools used to do was make you write 1,000 sentences. I had to write them so many times. I will not talk in class. And so, but the idea of that was if you wrote it enough, you would retain it. That was the sort of research behind that. But in today's world, there's also research showing in just putting things digitally, we it doesn't, it's not in our memory bank as much.
right.
And so consequently, I do think when it comes to trying to juggle multiple income producing activities and keeping yourself straight, I do believe that the memory factor of keeping yourself organized
Hmm.
and really understanding that memory piece of what you need to do, I think it's helpful. I
Yeah.
know that there's a lot of people that like digital, but what I find from some of my customers that really think they like digital is they're like, I use the digital for my scheduling because I
Hmm.
like that, and I use it for a couple of other little things, but I love your daily action plan. Like,
Hmm.
and so I've really started doing that, and it's made a huge difference in what I do every day.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I'm looking for in 2025 is having my daily tasks listed in front of me so that because what I'm finding in my everyday life is that there's certain things that are scheduled and non-negotiable. I
Yes.
can't move those around. And then there's things that might be a little bit more flexible. And what I'm doing is I'm pushing them to the side because they have the flexibility. So I think writing them down where it's almost in writing, that's in stone now. I need to get it done
Yes.
may help me going forward. So I love that. And I think it will help a lot of others too.
I've been teaching a program now for, gosh, 28 years, and it's the Power Hour, and lots of people have used it and have
Hmm.
adopted it. And one of the things that we have embedded into the planner is there's a space, and we have a legend now because I also do have lots of other entrepreneurs using this planner, like realtors and other people in sales, in a sales
Hmm.
profession. And so everybody, and depending on what your company is, and we've got so many multiple ways that we can work our businesses today,
Hmm.
that those four income producing activities aren't necessarily universally the same, right?
Right.
So we created a legend so you can create your own four, and then there's four boxes in each of the days in each calendar space. And what's really great about this is you can work on those income producing activities, check them off, and really see how many times did I do a power hour at the end of the month. Um, I had a leader from Pampered Chef share with me, I've been teaching this to my team for 17 years. And ever since I first saw you and I adopted this program because it's been so good for me. So I
Mm-hmm.
teach it to my team and I tell them that I do it 3 times a week and I think they should do it 3 times a week. And she said, but then I bought your planner and I actually was tracking it. And I realized the first month I tracked myself, I only did it 3 times in the whole month.
Right.
And then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm telling people I do it 3 times a week because I believed in my head I was still doing it 3 times a week.
Right.
And she said, but I went back to doing it 3 times a week and my business blew up.
That
And so
is
that is
key.
it
Yeah.
is, and it's a time management tool that works so effectively. And we have incorporated that into the planner because it's really an important piece, I feel, of how you get things done and how you choose what are the priorities and the income producing activities.
Right. Right. All right. So I know that we're fast approaching 2025, and every direct seller needs to really try to look ahead and set goals and plan for success in the new year.
Yes.
Are there some tips that you can offer to get people off to the right mindset at least, or at least having them being able to set their goals to, have a successful year?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting because when I first started speaking, so I've been speaking now almost 30 years. 2025 will be my 30th anniversary. And when I used to ask people in an audience at that time, like, well, how many of you have your goals written down and in a place where you can see it? And there'd be about 25% of the audience would raise their hand. As I continued throughout the years, that went from 25 to 20 to 15. I
Hmm.
remember at one point it was around 13%. And now studies show that it's only 8%
Wow.
of people that honestly set goals and then achieve them. So that's the first thing is why? Why is that? So I did a deep dive focus group of about 10,000 individuals that we did a survey. And it was like, well, I don't want to fail. Like if I never say that I want it, then I've never failed. And I
Hmm.
don't want, this is the big one. I don't want anyone else having any expectations from me.
Yeah.
And that's sad. I mean, I just like sit and I've done some research on that too, and that has to do really more with the visibility of social media and people putting things out there and people kind of holding them to it. But one of the things I always tell people with goal setting is there really is no failure. So
Right.
yeah, there isn't. It's benchmarks, and every time that you set a benchmark that you're reaching for, you're moving forward. When you don't set any goals, you're pretty much staying in the same space
Hmm.
because you really don't have any framework then of, okay, here's my goal. Now, your list of things to do should support your goal for the day, right?
Right.
And so that is one of the biggest things that people have to understand. There is no failure. The second thing is understanding the components of effective goal setting. So I guess even before I get into the three components, I'm going to talk about the second piece, and that is out of sight, out of mind.
Hmm.
So people will set goals at the beginning of the year because that's a good time to do it. Lots of companies encourage that. Leaders do like target talks or whatever they call it, where they sit down and help their team, create goals. And people do that, and they'll sometimes do it in a meeting, and then they forget all about it. Or the average person after about 8 weeks has abandoned that goal.
Hmm.
They're just not really focused on it anymore. And so keeping it front of mind and learning to break that down into sizable things of your action steps are going to make the difference. So, like in our planner, and we really this year, I just added the daily component, but we have your annual goals. So, you set your annual goals, and then we break it down to quarterly. Okay, so here's the first quarter. And then we break it down to, what campaigns are you going to do in January, February, March to support that goal?
Right.
Then we go to monthly and we have a whole 2 month page spread of saying, okay, now how do you take that goal and how do we break it down into monthly? Then we have weekly. What's the weekly goal then? And just this year we added a line right next to the things to do is what is your daily objective?
Okay.
So every day, if you say, this is the main thing, that's the main thing, that's the main thing today. So this is what I'm going to get done today, no matter what. And if you're working like an online business, let's say you want to sell, $5,000 a month. Well, if you just say 5,000 a month, you're hoping
Right.
you're hoping you're going to sell 5,000 a month. So you really have to say, okay, what is that per week? It's $1,250. What is it per day? It's $166. So if all you're doing is online marketing and you're going into your group and you're doing customer service, I got to sell $166. So what is that? Is that, the bundle for the week? Am I selling this bundle and it's priced at X? How many of those do I need to sell per day? Maybe it's two a day. So when you have a very specific objective and you can say, I need to sell 2 of these today, that's much easier than saying, how am I going to get to $5,000 this month?
Right.
And so that's the other piece, is out of sight, out of mind, keeping it in the forefront. The third thing is understanding the 3 components. So the first component to setting an effective goal is the vision piece, the bigger picture. And it's also your why. Why do you want it? If you just say, I'd like to sell $100,000 this year, why? Why do you want to sell that? If you did that, what's the income you would earn and what would you do? What impact would that income have on you and your family? What are some of those things that you'd like to do with that? Is it an experience? Is it taking your family on a vacation? Is it remodeling? Is it saving? Well, what is the piece? And the reason that is so important is because that is the emotional attachment. When you are emotionally attached to it, then that's that fire in your belly that's going to keep you going. If you don't have an emotional attachment, it's very easy to give up on it. If you don't hit it, it's like, oh, well, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So that's the first piece. The second piece then is the benchmarks. And that's how people need to look at goals, is they are benchmarks. So for example, if I want to sell $5,000 in a month and I say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And I go out, set out to do it. And I only sell 4,200 that month. Well, I'm better off than if I sold 0, if I didn't stretch for it. If I don't hit it, it's no big deal. I just recalculate and say, okay, what else could I do? What could I add to what I just did? Or how could I do what I just did slightly different to then take me over the finish line? They're benchmarks. In fact, for myself, this is a little more advanced, but for myself, I always set a stretch goal, the minimum goal, like I have to hit this no matter what, and then sort of a middle benchmark. And so as long as I land somewhere in that middle, like I'm really good. But setting that stretch goal makes me work just a little bit harder.
Right.
Every single time. And then I hit my mark. Then the third piece is the most important one that I would say 90% of people don't really fit in. Most people just set the goal, the one in the middle. They don't really attach it to their why. Some do. But the third piece is, what is your plan of action? So if you really wanted to sell $5,000, what's going to be the path to get there? What is the action steps to get there? So that's also, we're talking to direct sellers, but like, how do you want to work your business? Do you want to still do some events? Do you do trade shows? Are you doing or vendor events? Are you doing pop-up events? Are you working your business online events or just online marketing, which those are different from each other? So you have to decide, how am I working my business? And so then what are the action steps within that framework that is actually going to take me over the finish line? Right. So if people will do that, they'd actually not only set effective goals, but they would achieve them.
Yeah, I love that. That's a lot of information. And I'm sure
so
people,
sorry.
no, that's perfect. And I know people are going to go back on repeat and listen again, because you shared so much valuable information there. And I know that it's going to help so many prep and prepare for a successful 2025. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
So one of the cool things about our planner that I think is different than almost every other one out there is I have 26 videos embedded in this planner.
Okay.
So on goal setting, that exact thing that I did only in a much longer sort of, you know, I teach people how to create a vision board. We talk about the importance of it. We talk about your daily action steps. Um, I have a whole separate training, like 30-40 minutes on the power hour and how to do that every day. So not only are they getting this tool, but they're getting instruction on how to use the tool, how to be successful with the tool. So there's 26 videos in the planner, and there's 10 videos in the mindset journal.
Okay, good. And they can find all of that stuff, all the information about your planner and about you on your website, stepintosuccess.com, correct?
Actually, I would love them to go to workfromyourhappyplace.com. We have moved
Okay,
our entire planner and all of our programs over there. That's where they can also find out about the podcast. But workfromyourhappyplace.com, click on planner, 2025 planner, and they
perfect.
will see all the information for that.
All right, I'll make sure I link that website in the show notes. But I'd love for you, I ask everybody who's on the podcast, and I'd love for you to share yours. But do you have any, favorite quote or words of advice that you think every direct seller needs to hear to be successful?
Yes. So I thought about this and I could give somebody else's quote, but I thought, why not give my own, right? I've
Right.
got I've got a couple of pretty good quotes that are out there that people use. So my one that I've had forever, which I still totally love, 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 is random acts get random results. So be intentional. And I truly believe that that sort of sums up how so many direct sellers work their business on a very random
Mm-hmm.
basis. So if they would, random acts get random results. So be intentional. Even if you do it part-time, be intentional in your part-time hours that you have for your business. Even if it's a hobby, be intentional with your hobby. So that's
Right.
one. Another one that I have, these are a couple little ones, and they're each great tips. What gets scheduled gets done.
Okay.
So scheduling is important, because even the things that you want to do, maybe that's do a special fun project with your kids. Maybe it's work out. Maybe it's whatever it is. What gets scheduled gets done. Um, and then I would say those are kind of two of my favorites. The other one that I love, which goes with the mindset, but the story you tell yourself is the one you will believe. So make sure you're telling yourself a good story about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because we don't, self-talk is so important. Because we'll believe it. You will
Yeah,
believe it.
that is so true. That's so true. I love that. And I appreciate you sharing those because those are all amazing. I love the random acts get random results. I love that. All right. So I would love for you to tell the listeners, where can they find you in the World Wide Web? Do you have like social accounts that they can find you at?
Sure. So all three of the social accounts that we're kind of involved in. So we have Facebook, and it's Belinda Ellsworth, sales strategist. So they
Okay.
can go there. That's the same for Instagram.
Okay.
And it is the same on LinkedIn. So all three of those
Perfect.
platforms are the same. Our website is workfromyourhappyplace.com, and they can find out about our membership community. We have two membership communities. Now, I don't know if direct selling now is on there. So we have a membership community for entrepreneurs, which is Work From Your Happy Place, and
Hmm.
it comes with a subscription box. And that's on our main website. But we also have um, a direct selling subscription, and I have kept it so low. It's like way underpriced. But I've kept it there so that anybody, even just joining this industry, could afford to be there.
Hmm.
You get monthly trainings, you get a monthly, social media sort of outline of things to do. But it's $17 a month. And for the direct
Okay.
sellers, it's a really great resource. Um, and of course, I authored Direct Selling for Dummies. I have
Yes.
actually
Yes. I
two
have
versions of
copies.
that.
Yep.
And they can get that. In fact, if you go to the workfromyourhappyplace.com, there's Black Friday specials.
Awesome. Yes, because this
And
is going to air just before Black Friday. So
yeah. So there's Black Friday specials. We got all kinds of great things for like your team incentives, really inexpensive incentives for your team. But the book and workbook and course is on sale there. It's an 11-hour course that follows along with the book. And normally that's like $250 all by itself, but we're giving that away free. So it's the book workbook, which normally sells for $39. We're selling for $29 and they get the course. So
awesome.
that's a great deal. If direct sellers don't own that listen to your podcast, that's kind of a must. It's a must have. And that's a revised version that we did in 2022. So
Yeah.
it has a
So it's
lot more.
fairly recent. Yeah, that's good.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, I just want to say thank you once again. I really appreciate you coming and sharing with the listeners. And I want to thank the listeners for tuning in to another episode of The Other 99%. And we will see you again next week. Take care, everyone. This episode of the Other 99% podcast has been brought to you by Spice It Up with Lisa Duck. If you're struggling with the question of what's for dinner, let Epicure help you put quick, delicious, family-friendly meals on the table in 20 minutes or less. Learn more about what Epicure has to offer. Visit spiceitupwithlisaduck.com. And if you're new to Epicure, be sure to use promo code EPIC15 in your cart at checkout for 15% off your entire first order. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to listen to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you would take a minute to rate and review the podcast, I would absolutely love it. And if you know someone who really needs to hear this podcast, please feel free to share it with them. More listeners, the better. And if you know someone who would like to be a guest on the podcast, or you yourself would like to be a guest, be sure to check the link in the show notes or visit lisaduck.com and click Be a Guest. We'll talk to you soon.